To communicate between a fragment and its host activity, you can define an interface in the fragment class and implement it within the activity. So let's do this to have our master list fragment communicate with the main activity. To define an interface, we'll create a listener in our master list fragment. You can name it anything. I'm calling it onImageClickListener and giving it the variable name mCallback. This will eventually be implemented in the host activity, and there we can program it to perform some action whenever a list image is clicked. Then, to define this interface, we just specify the method that it triggers. Here, we're having it trigger a method called onImageSelected. This takes in an int variable, position, which will just be the position that a user clicks on our grid view. We also have to make sure that the host activity implements the callback, and we can check in the master list fragment's onAttach method. This is where a fragment attaches itself to its host activity. Then it checks to see that the onImageClickListener is implemented. And if it's not, it throws an exception. Lastly, in onCreateView, we need to trigger the callback on a click. So we'll set a click listener on the grid view and call the callback method onImageSelected whenever an item in our grid view is clicked. Then we can pass in the clicked position too. Now that we've defined this interface in our fragment, let's link it to our main activity. I mentioned that in order to receive callbacks from the master list fragment, the main activity must implement the interface we defined in the fragment class. So right at the top, we write implements masterlistFragment.onImageClickListener. Then you can see we get an error because this means we also need to implement the method onImageSelected. So let's define the behavior for onImageSelected. And this is where we'll handle fragment communication. This interface acts a lot like a custom click listener. It's triggered in the fragment class and performs some action in the host activity. For now, in onImageSelected, I've created a toast to see if we've implemented this communication correctly. It should display a message about the position clicked when an image is selected. Let's try it out. Now you should see a short toast appear every time I click on an image in the master list. The positions range from 0 all the way down to 35. Next, it will be your turn to complete this code and successfully implement fragment to activity communication.